Nice little lay-by here. Morning, folks, should have said. Glimpse of something through the gate there. I've come to Shropshire and we're visiting Moreton Corbet Castle. I'm the only one here at the moment, and it's another grey day. We're going to go in and have a look around. There's a nice manor house across the road from it. Castle Farm, I think that's part of. Okay, let's go and see what's in here. So what we're going to see is remains of a 16th century mansion, originated as a medieval enclosure castle. The first castle was built as earth and stone by the Torret family, T-O-R-E-T, probably in the 12th century. And then the Corbet family acquired the manor of Moreton in 1239. They built it in stone. Part of their Great Tower or Keep and Gatehouse remain today. And then later on Sir Andrew Corbet began to remodel the castle as an imposing country house in the 16th century. His son Robert built the magnificent East Range around 1578, and then of course in the Civil War 1642, 1646 the castle was damaged and then abandoned as a residence in the 18th century. So there's a good view from the signpost. So the Corbet family, who came into their hands through marriage in 1239, still own the castle today, so it is managed by English Heritage. Lots of extension and adaptation, and then in about 1580 we've got this massive residential range to the right hand side, so that's a sort of dining chamber, hallway, and that was built by Sir Robert Corbet. And then in Civil War, Sir Vincent Corbet fought for the king and the house was damaged in the course of repeated bouts of fighting. And I say in the 18th century it was abandoned. So started about 1,000 years ago. So gonna have a look around the outside first, I like to do. Someone's just turned out with a massive dog that looks like a bear. And this is one of the oldest parts, the remains of the Great Tower. God, must have been immense. Difficult to see on this camera, but above that window in the middle there you've got lots of carvings, elephant, roses, initials, all sorts of things. So this was what, 1580, so they survived 500 and something years. Side of the door as well. something there. So this is some of the older area. So this would have been the main entrance in the medieval gatehouse. Initially there was a gatehouse here in 1200 and that would have been wooden, and then it was remodelled in 1560 I think it said, in stone, and there would have been a sort of ditch moat around the edge of the castle here. And on top of the archway there is the same elephant I saw the other side. So it's the Corbet family emblem, which is an elephant and a castle on its back, and that's got a date of 1579 with SAC, Sir Andrew Corbet, so that was his initials. So we've got nice modern stairs to go and have a look. Huge great area, this courtyard. So this would have been the Great Tower. So you've got walls here, foundations of which are in the floor about 5 foot thick. So this is where the tower would have been. Great hall over there. This sign is telling us this is the inner courtyard. Great tower to our left, kitchen just to the right of that, gatehouse as we came through, range with latrines over here, so those couple of doors, and then we've still got a church in the background. Here we go, everybody likes the toilet area. Fireplace upstairs. Fireplace downstairs. And then the latrines next to it. Basically holes outside as usual. Nice sort of arched windows there. although being bricked up. Weathered window frame. Various graffiti on the doorway. There's one there, JB 1784. But some English heritage sites, they value these sort of things. Portchester Castle is one that rings a bell, where they've got some old initials inscribed and dates. Can't quite read that date. Just been down there's a cellar area under this room, which is very dark. And this is the end of the sort of great hall area. Massive great windows, fireplaces. More fireplaces down below, up top. Part of a fire surround. And then we just got the end room. So that was Moreton Corbet Castle. I enjoyed that. Quick look around on my way down to Hereford. Nice and peaceful apart from the farm over there. Excellent, on to the next one. Nice bit of countryside around here. So that's Shrewsbury over there. I couldn't get through the gate. There's a small lane down to where I am at the moment, but I couldn't get through the gate. So fortunately there's a lay-by just next door. So I'm parked in there. And I'm now going to visit, golly, fly, Haughmond Abbey. Haughmond. So not far from Moreton Corbet Castle. So it might be Haughmond. Haughmond. It's a nice little cottage just here. Again, another English heritage site, free of charge. Looks like there's a booth, so it used to be chargeable. So again, a 12th century. This was a home to a community of Augustinian canons, priests whose daily life was regulated by monastic rule. So the buildings were erected between the 12th and 15th century. and the remains of the abbot's lodging, refectory and cloister. The front of the chapter house is richly ornamented with 12th century sculpture. The inside has a fine 16th century ceiling. So the abbey was closed in 1539, and the abbey church was probably demolished at this time, but many of the buildings were turned into a grand country house. So that's what we know about it. Very quaint, first impression. So the first panel when you get in is really just a guide. It says some of the artefacts are in the museum, but I think the museum's shut now. But I don't know how much this is left, but looks quite substantial. Okay, let's go and have a wander. I don't know if I can do the outside first, as I normally like to. Or maybe. Okay, let's have a wander around here. Gosh, it does go on for a long way. Yeah, I'm not sure when English Heritage left, stopped it from being chargeable. Try and find out. There's quite a lot to it. With the church area. So this is the western end of the Abbey church. So it would have been a huge, great church. So this was demolished immediately after the Abbey was dissolved in 1539. So there was probably an earlier church here, around 1070, and then this one, I believe, was started about 1170. It was extended through the Middle Ages, and from the late 13th century the floors were covered with pavements of coloured tiles. Nice if some of those were left, but it's a bit open to the elements. So this was built on the side of a hill, and they had made lots of terraces. So we've gone up to the back side of it, so to speak. Give you a good view. Long Nose Garden. was made into a garden by Nicholas de Longnaw, who was the abbot from 1325 to 1346. It contained a dovecot, long gone. We've got a nice window, some glass in it above that. So we can get inside. I was going to say, typically it looks like cloisters, but I think this was inside the church. Oh, I was right, it is the cloister. 4 covered walkways enclose a central courtyard. So the walks were laid out in the 12th century and decorated with delicate arcades of open arches. Around 1400 new walks were constructed with large glazed windows. Love the brickwork here. Nice scrolls, effigies. And you've got the scrolling around the arch. So this archway you walk through takes into the chapter house, where the canons met every day to discuss business in the chapter house. Formal proceedings open with a reading of a chapter from the rule of the monastery, hence the name of this building. The canons would have sat around the walls, and the abbot beneath the central window at the far end of the room. So the arches that we saw facing the cloister belong to a building erected about 1200, and then in 1500 this room was narrowed and provided with a fine timber ceiling. At the same time, the end of the building was set out on a polygonal plan and new windows were inserted. So we've got some 13th and 14th century tomb slabs in front of us here. We've got a font. Now that is a weathered font. I would say that's the 12th century. I saw one in a church earlier in this tour and said it had a 12th century one, but it didn't look it. What did it say? This roof was 1500? There must be a small room up there because there was a window I saw from the outside with glass in it. But there's no doorway up, there's no outside doorway. This was the refectory down here, built around 1180. So it was a 2-storey. We see the columns which held the top floor, the refectory floor above. So we've got a good panorama here. So this is the central courtyard, and this was the Canon's kitchen to the left there with those massive fireplaces, and then we saw the refectory, the chapter house that we've just been in over there, and then the remains of the dormitory over to the right hand side here. And this, which I thought was a church earlier, is the Abbots Hall for entertainment and display. So this has an open timber roof and its windows were filled with glass. And this building just off the Abbots Hall, the Abbots withdrawing chambers, which had 2 floors with comfortable rooms for the abbot. He could retire from the Great Hall to relax or entertain privileged guests. So again, he's got a nice window. And in every building, castle, monastery, you have to have a latrine. So this is the back of the dormitory, so that would have taken the fluids away. Well, Haughmond Abbey, or Haughmond Abbey, might well have been my last place to visit on this Coasts and Castles tour. So I hope you've enjoyed the places I visited. I certainly have. Been meaning to do a lot of them for a long time now, so glad to finally get to do them. And hopefully catch you on the next journey. All the best.